life is so sharp. Like there is no mercy. It can pop, 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 pop. And when you're already struggling or you're already down, getting kicked again, it can just push you in a direction that can be really challenging to come back from.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough, and when we do talk about it, many of us, including me, aren't very good at it. Actually, most of us suck at it. So, one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversations with attempt survivors, in large part to help or try to help more people in more places feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. And so a huge thanks if you have been involved in that in any way. I really appreciate it. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor and you would like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter @suicide Noted. You can check the show notes to learn more about the podcast, including other ways to reach out, our membership. And I want to thank Laura. She is a new member, so check that out if you are interested in that. We would love that kind of support. You can also learn about our group on Signal, as well as some other things we're involved in that maybe you can be involved in. And oh, by the way, it's been a minute or a whole lot more than a minute since we got a review, and it really does help people find the podcast. So please take a moment right now. You can pause it. I'll be here when you get back. And so will my guest. You can rate it, please 5 stars, and leave a review. Finally, we are talking about suicide on this podcast, and we do not hold back. So please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen because there is so much to learn. Today, I am talking with Alissa. Alissa lives in Arizona, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Hey, Alissa.
How are you today?
3.5 out of 10. How are you?
Okay, I'll match you on that.
Yeah. And you're in Arizona. What part of Arizona are you in?
I currently live in Phoenix.
Oh, okay. And is that a hotel room you're in?
Well, it's what we call a guest suite. So I moved into a new apartment and it got flooded last week. So I'm staying in basically like a furnished apartment until I move. I'm moving today into the new one.
Oh, wow. So today's a busy day.
Yeah.
We could, if you want to, talk about everything other than suicide, or we could just talk about that, or somewhere in between. Maybe it's usually a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What would you like to do?
That's the point of the podcast, right? So yeah, we can just dig right in.
I appreciate you showing up and talking with me.
Yeah, I appreciate you too.
Arizona.
But I'm from Utah, so it's...
Here we go. All right. All right. Here we go. Because, I've done... So Utah, does that mean that you are or were Mormon?
Usually that's the case. Yes. I did grow up. Yeah, I come from a Mormon family of 8. I'm the youngest of 8.
Is that part of this conversation?
Yeah, I think that's a big part.
Former Mormons. So where do we begin? Let's do this. We'll dive right in. You're a suicide attempt survivor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have one attempt or multiple?
I would only say one attempt. I think the others were, it's just more ideating severely throughout the duration of my life.
When was the attempt?
Last August. Yeah, so I've been in Phoenix almost 18 months. My brother actually committed suicide or completed suicide in July of 22. And at that time I was working remotely. I hated the cold weather. My mom's gone. My dad's, he's got dementia. So I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I in Utah? I don't even like Utah. My son, I have a grown son. He's 25. He lives down here. So I packed up and I'm just like in a really quick decision. And I came down here. I'm just kind of trying to create a new life. But it's been really challenging.
Oh, I bet. And you have a dog.
I have 2. They're sleep. Can you see?
Oh, that's why I said that. I saw big ears sticking out of behind.
Yeah, she's really cool. They're really great. I'm grateful for them.
Your brother passed away, took his own life in July of 2022. You tried to take your own life in August of 2023. And now here we are talking in June of 2024. Did you look for something like this?
Your podcast? Yeah, I found your podcast after I was in the hospital, and I just remember being so disoriented. I mean, you know the drill with that. And getting out, I was just very overwhelmed by the disconnection of family and friends after that happened, and just felt very lonely. I felt very, very isolated and lonely in my experience. And so that was when I, searched you out or searched suicide out and found you. And it was a source of relief and a lot of help for me.
Oh,
So thank you.
of course. How long were you in the hospital for?
A week. Let's really get into the details. Let me back up.
Let's not fuck around here.
Okay, let's just
We're going hard and deep and all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2019, I left a relationship I was in for 7 years. Very bad relationship, not good for my mental health. It was the hardest thing I did, but the best thing I could have ever done. I didn't really know how to be alone at that point. It was really hard and very challenging. And I used alcohol to medicate myself through that process. And within 6 months, my mom passed away. And so it was just kind of like a pump, just whammy, And within the 6 months after that, after my mom's passing, I was in a really bad car accident. My car caught fire. I nearly died. Sometimes wonder why the fuck I didn't die, but that's another story. It was really by the grace of God, or I don't know, maybe my mom and my angels and my soul team. I don't know, but anyway, I kind of hit rock bottom at that. You can imagine I was intoxicated when it happened, so really bad, really scary. Lots of people mad at me. I don't know that anybody really took into account the grieving that was happening. So anyway, I ended up finding this really great job. I won't name the company, a really large company based out of New York City. I do technical recruiting for a living. I've been with them for several years, make great money, super happy, work remote. And I really got out of that dark place quickly. It was in like 6 months I got out of that. Within another 6 months, my brother passed. So within a year, there's just been some kind of markers that I can look at and go, okay, that's why this, that's why this, that's why that. Yeah, so my brother passed, and that's when I decided to come to Phoenix to be closer to family. It was harder than I thought it would be. I had a really good group of friends, and I taught for a studio in Salt Lake City, and maybe didn't or underestimated the connections that I had there and didn't realize how much I would miss them. So it was very isolating here. I think that's what pushed me over, was the isolation and the aloneness.
How many siblings do you have?
7, well, 6 alive now.
Do any of them struggle the way you struggle?
Most of us, yeah, I would say.
Are any of them still involved with the Mormon Church?
Just one, my oldest sister. She's someone I was very close to before the attempt. She's no longer has communication with me. She and I were very close. We were really close through my brother's attempt passing. It wasn't until I did that I think it was too much. And I can honor and understand and appreciate that. It's a lot.
It's a lot for you too. You probably know how I feel about some things if you've listened to the podcast. So you shared some stuff. I think it was, you mentioned there was drinking, there was a breakup, there was a car accident, there was all kinds of stuff, a lot of major stuff. In as much as you want to, can you share with me summer of last year? Because you're leading up and you're struggling, but there was a particular day where you said, no, this day is different than the other days.
Yeah.
This day, I am actually going to try, not just think about it.
Yeah. My other brother got married in Mexico a few weeks before that. And I remember traveling there alone. And, I think what happened was coming back from that. It was also my birthday that week. I've been single for the last 5 years, but I have a lot of people that have come and gone through my life. No one had ever stuck, right? No one, I just never really connected to that degree where I wanted to start something with them. And a lot of people really kind of started swirling around me again that week of my birthday. And I just felt like I'm just going to be alone forever. I went through all of those events alone too, losing my mom and losing my brother. And life is sharp. Life is so sharp. Yeah, to do it alone it can feel impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I do believe that I'm a wonderful person. And I don't know necessarily that I will be alone forever. But that day, that's how it felt. I was just tired. I was just very tired. I'm still very tired today.
Where were you that day?
At home. I live actually in a wonderful place downtown Phoenix. It's interesting to contrast where I can really have enjoyed a lot of the parts of my experience here, but also have had such a life-changing experience here in bad ways too.
How much do you want to talk about that day?
We can do it. I think I'm up for it. I had also been drinking that day. I remember a guest of yours talking about alcohol and how that really can change the chemistry. I do believe that. I mean, you do tap into things, and whatever emotion you feel can be elevated. And I just remember feeling very desperate and very isolated. And I don't know if it was alcohol or if it's kind of me trying to protect myself from remembering everything. Yeah, I decided I wanted to hang myself. So I cut a belt and I put it, up on the door and secured it. I grabbed just like the trash can that was in the bathroom to stand up on it. And my dog was barking really crazily. Like she knew like something was really amiss. As soon as I went to step up in it, the garbage can bottom fell through. And so I just at that moment was like, what the fuck am I doing?
So was it a little somewhat impulsive?
Yeah, I feel like it was really impulsive.
And maybe the alcohol?
Yeah, absolutely that too.
I would imagine for some people, if the pail falls and it obviously doesn't work, they might try again.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The barking was I remember it was a different pitch that I had ever heard before too. Yeah, that really shook me more than even thought through. Yeah, it was really weird. But a lot of things are, the accident and getting through that was weird too. So I do kind of chalk that up to, I mean, for whatever fucking reason, maybe I'm here for a reason. I don't know.
I feel like this is a question I'm going to ask that is kind of like the answer is going to be yes and no, but did you want to die?
Yes.
Do you wish you had succeeded?
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting to me because I wonder frankly, how it is you haven't tried again if you feel that way.
There's a lot of things that keep me from it. And I think a lot of it is living through that experience of my brother passing and seeing the aftershock and effects of that. That's a tough one. My brother used to speak very openly about his mental health and suicide. He wrote a post on Facebook. I mean, I'm talking like 8 years ago. And I remember him saying, if you know someone that has suicidality or is going through suicidality, give them a hug and thank them for being here because most times we're here for them and not for us.
And I think a lot of people might not get it where it's like, thank them. I'm sure it happens. I bet it doesn't happen a lot. Those kinds of words said, who knows? They're trying. It's really fucking hard. They're probably, at least in part, staying for others. That might be you.
I just find it interesting. And your podcast has helped me crawl into the minds of others. And, you get to see it from different perspectives and why the mind thinks the way it thinks. This topic is so taboo and it is so shunned upon and it's scary and it's big for most people. Most will choose to walk away. But that's so painful for the person that's experiencing it.
Yeah. So last summer, when it doesn't work, but you mentioned a hospital, did you check yourself into a hospital after?
Oh, no. I had told my niece who lives down here, she's 32, but this is also, I have to remember, this is my brother's daughter, the brother that just died a year ago. And I'm not, what am I thinking telling her? And of course, she's like, absolutely not. This is not fucking happening. And so she came over. I didn't even realize really what was going on. She came over and she said, I really think we need to call a crisis team for you. So I didn't really know like what that meant. Yeah. So I'm like literally in the middle of my workday on a Wednesday working from home. And this team comes over and they're like, hey, you got to go. And I'm like, I'm working, like I can't go. And I'm like, I'm good. And they're like, you just tried to kill you. Like, you're not good, Alissa. And so they're like, we're going to go downstairs. You can pack your bag. We'll meet you down there in 15 minutes. Yeah, I had to like send my boss a message and just say, hey, I'm not feeling well. I think I told him I was having kidney problems because I'd had him earlier that year and just kind of bounced out. Just like, I don't know what's happening.
You can't tell your boss what happened. Not that you would, but we know that you're probably losing your job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you don't, what does that look like?
Well, it's just like one thing I'm reminded of. It's like when you're taken against your will, which is essentially what you were. I've got a 1 p.m. meeting. Life just doesn't stop. Your work doesn't stop.
Again,
Your obligations don't stop. Almost no time to work it out. It's like, why? You go to this hospital. I know you stayed for a week because you've shared that. Found the podcast, which I guess is
yeah, it was really helpful. I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing. It has been the friend to me that I needed.
Instead of me asking what sucked about the hospital, and you can share that, of course, I'm actually going to ask you what, if anything, was good about that experience.
Yeah. I met some really incredible people, and a girl that was in my room, her and I really helped each other through that week. I will tell you though, I got sexually harassed about 3 times when I was in that hospital. Yeah, it was such a wild experience.
By like a staff?
Mhm. Just, yeah, like trying to get my phone number, sitting on my bed for a prolonged time like at night when I was sleeping, telling me I was beautiful, like weird, weird, weird. I'm thinking back, and at the time you're really fucking drugged up. You don't know what's going on. You're so vulnerable. It was really not a good experience. And coming out of that, I thought, what a fucking waste of my life.
I have a word for those people that did that to you. They are called criminals.
Yeah, they shouldn't be there.
No, 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 no. Not just that.
You're right.
Not be there. Not be there is a starting point. Sure, 100%. Being threatened because you, what? Keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it more. I know most people don't give a shit. We are incarcerating the wrong people. You are incarcerating Alissas of the world. And that's what it is. It's actually even more fucking twisted because I don't know. You have a good job. I'm sure insurance, blah, blah, blah. But you're getting charged an obscene amount of money too for almost no care for getting sexually harassed. Alissa, can we just bracket our conversation for a moment? I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Tell me one, and there's probably some out there that I'm not thinking. Tell me one other scenario or situation, or I'm at a loss for words here, in which you can be taken against your will, be charged a very high amount of money, and be at risk. And it is a risk. Your story, your experience there is not uncommon.
No.
Sexual harassment. So can you share with me another scenario in our culture where that's a thing?
No. And I think that's why it's so important to have such scenarios where we can talk openly like this about it, because it is so pushed and compressed and pushed away and put away and don't talk about it. It's not helping that beast, that animal. That's allowing it to continue to be so fucked up. I'm terrified to discuss this with anyone, any feelings of not wanting to be here, because that is not a place I want to go back to.
I was having a conversation with somebody at the pickleball courts yesterday. He's a pretty young medical student who did a psych rotation and was astounded by the bad treatment. And he asked me, because he knows a little bit about what I'm involved with in the podcast. And I'm like, you're at the University of North Carolina's unit. Imagine what it's like in some other places.
No shit.
Worse. I said, the fastest way to get out of a place like that? He said, no. I said, just say you're not suicidal anymore enough times and you'll probably get out. He says, well, that makes sense. I said, but the problem is some of those people are. They learn what they have to do. But now what?
Now you get dumped into it. For me, it was, hey, we got an Uber for you. Get in, and then what?
And he said, you know what? I would consider, there's a few places I'm going to consider going into. He says, you know what? I won't go into that. I said, why not? He goes, because I saw what's going on. I said, they need you more than anybody. He goes, yeah, but I have to take care of myself. I'm not doing it. I was like, that's exactly what's happening. That's what's happening, among other things. They see it, and unless they're a fucking sociopath, they're like, I don't think I want to spend my days here.
Nobody does. And those people were working so many hours. I felt bad for those people.
Yeah, well, they might get in for good reasons, but they stay for understandable reasons. But it's like most people would become hardened.
Yeah.
Because of the work conditions, and you don't have enough resources. And Alissa, did you go to the ER first, or did you go right to the unit?
No, they have like a transitional place here in Phoenix. I guess it would be it was an assessing. They did assessments on me. And I don't know I don't even know what you would call it. It would be probably someone that they would consider less dangerous to themselves. They would maybe just keep them there for a few hours. Yeah. But then they did decide, okay, we're going to have you go to the hospital.
So you emailed me right after. And then what happened? We kind of just didn't work out?
Yeah, I think I was probably just too overwhelmed. I think having some bit of distant space and time from it has given me a chance to really collect like what has happened. I think at that point it was just really messy in my brain.
How have you gotten through the past 10 months?
I cry a lot. I have good friends. I have really good friends that care and show up, check on me a lot. I really like to isolate. I'm sure that this is nothing new to you, but I do. And to the point it can be detrimental. People are like, what the fuck did I do to you? And I'm like, it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not wanting to spread that and pour any of this into your life.
Right.
But also then that's where you feel really lonely, so it's double-edged sword. Meditation helps. It helps me keep my sanity, keep me grounded, and just to hope that there will be better days. But most days I still think about it, think about doing it.
Do you change the method in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I live in a high rise now, so that's always a thought.
In the past 10 months, how close have you gotten beyond ideating?
I haven't. Just like I was saying in the beginning, just very heavy ideating throughout the day.
I don't know what that sort of feels like for you. I would imagine it's just hard to do certain things at a high level, whether it's work or other things, when you're ideating so often.
Yeah. And I feel, I don't want to use the word selfish, self-absorbed way of thinking. And so how, and this is the meditation practice and all of the teaching that I've done. It's like, how do I interrupt that thought pattern? How do I air that out? You don't get so stuck because that's what ideating is, right? You're just replaying and you're going over and over and over. And so it's just a matter of like, I got to get outside for a walk, or I've got to do something to stimulate me physically with my senses, just like you would with an anxiety or a panic attack. It kind of is the same. But for me, it's just, it feels like a drowning, your head being pushed underwater again and again. Yeah. And there have been a lot of times that the tools that I've practiced and created, whatever those are, they just don't fucking work. Our brains and our thoughts are very powerful.
They really are.
But one thing I've really experienced this last year is you can try to like make life better with your thoughts, and there's all this shit talking about like, if you just change the way you think, your life. And I believe that to a certain degree, but I also believe that there is just the nature of our minds is to ruminate and to kind of work. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just because we're mentally ill. I don't know. I only know my brain, right?
Yeah. Do you think you're mentally ill, however that is defined?
Yeah, that's something that I've come to terms with, honestly, even in the last month. Like, I really believe that it's not super, super fit up there. And it takes a lot of work to at least be maybe in a normalized state. For me, for maybe some other people, their normal state takes me 10 times more work and intention than it does just for the average person. Like, it's a battle that I fight every single day.
Yeah. My battle is not hating those people. Not hating the people who seem to be mostly okay and they don't have to struggle like that. My people are crazy motherfucking people.
My people too.
Are you okay with the word or words mentally ill? It never sits well with me.
It doesn't either, no. Like I said, who's well? Show me a well person.
I like the word, the original root, I believe the root word of dis-ease, not disease, how we use it, but dis-ease makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
I know why we have words, and I know why there's a DSMV, whatever the fuck it is. I always get that confused with Motor Vehicle Bureau, DMV, DSMV, Roman numerals. Shut up. I can't keep track of your dumb acronyms. Keep it simple, dodo. It just is like, what the fuck? It just plays into transactional all day long. Like you getting shuffled out of the hospital and into an Uber Lyft. You're like, you're a piece of meat.
But also, what should they be doing? And that's something I've kind of tried to unwrap too. Like, what would have worked? What would work? I don't know.
What would have worked for you? Worked meaning what as well? What does that mean even for you? Work.
Yeah, I mean, just taking you off that ledge, literally. But I think it's someone listening with a kindness to listen and not to judge or not to try to fix.
So, and you said 43 seconds ago, more or less, I believe something like, well, what should they do? Yeah. What would have worked? Like, am I wrong when I heard that the idea of someone really listening well with an open heart sounds not attainable? Or you may not have framed it as, well, what should they do? What should they do is train people to be really good listeners, and they get paid well so they can have a comfortable life, because what they do is pretty fucking amazing. And do that. Agreed. Maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 4 days. Great. Yeah. You're going to make some overtime here. Just do your job really well. Listen, we create jobs because there's a demand for jobs, but, and I know somebody recently told me there are professional listeners, but if I'm doing this kind of work and I'm not aware of them, it's not that known. And if it's not that known, then like, sure, great. But there's so many jobs, different kind of jobs to serve people's needs, right? They have a window, McDonald's, where their only job is to listen to your order and then take your money. They don't even give you your food, right? And most is like 2 sections. That's a pretty specialized role. Not a problem for McDonald's or Burger King or whatever else. They will make that shit because it's efficient. It's good. It's good for business. Like, but listen well with an open heart. No, can't do it. Don't know how it would work.
Do you think, though, that maybe people maybe start with that intention and it just becomes so overwhelming for them that they do have to harden? I don't know. This is just a thought.
Yeah, because if you have one person who's dealing with 14 people a day, of course that's going to happen. But if we actually gave a shit and maybe hire 5 people, that can work with 1 or 2 people a day, whatever the numbers are, what would that look like? Oh, but we can't do that. We can't afford that. Of course you can. You have more than enough money, most of you. It's how you're allocating it. Why do you have so many goddamn beds in your emergency room? Build more bed. No. We budget cuts. It's like, all right, so then stop.
Yeah, it does. It does feel helpless. And my brother that passed, some of his parting words for that is he was hospitalized 3 times in the year and a half before he passed. He was hospitalized 7 times in his life. Just this deep, deep darkness that he had within him. And man, he fucking tried his ass off the year before he was doing all the quote right things. Still took him.
Yeah, people will say the disease got him or his illness got him. It's like, I'm not disputing that. I know very little about your brother, but which you don't hear very often. And then we'll move on because I could go. I just have blabbing about this. You don't usually hear like the hospitals got him,
right?
The system got him. Like that's just not part of our vocabulary. Even it doesn't almost sounds weird saying it aloud.
To me, there isn't a fix. There isn't a solution. I don't know. It's something that needs to be explored and not hidden in a corner. He tried. I see where he was just like, I'm fucking tapped. And he told his daughter, listen, I'm 50 years old. I've lived a life. If I was 15 or 17, it might be a little different, but I'm just tired. And I can really relate to that. I think a lot of people could relate to that because what do you do? I don't feel like there is a solution. I've been on medication. I've been in therapy. I've been in all those things this last few years.
And you try and you try and you try and you try and you try. It's like it makes complete sense that at some point, either you stop trying and maybe that means you attempt, maybe not, but that you lose hope.
You lose hope. Yeah.
So for somebody to say to you or anybody, well, try another doctor, try this new medication. At some point, it's like, I've tried a lot of fucking things. I can't guarantee that won't be helpful, but like,
sure.
It's so deflating.
It just, and again, that life is so sharp. Like there is no mercy. It can pop, 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 pop. And when you're already struggling or you're already down, getting kicked again, it can just push you in a direction that can be really, really challenging to come back from.
Life is sharp, memoir title? Pop, 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 pop has got to be somewhere there too. So life is sharp, pop, 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 pop. Just read the damn book. I don't think publishers agree. That's why these memoir titles are just titles, but you never know. You know what I like about these memoir titles that I come up with?
I love your memoir title.
Well, here's what I like about it. Because in most books, life is sharp, but then there's another section to it, and you can do it. Life is hard. You're stronger.
You're fighter. Yeah.
Yeah. My memoir titles are not that. They're like something that just is, and there's no happy ending here. Maybe there is, but that's not really why you're reading the book.
And that's okay. That's great. We need that too. We definitely need that. We need more of what you're doing.
I haven't figured out my memoir yet.
I'm sure you've had several ideas run through your mind.
Bunch of ideas.
Yeah. What's a couple?
Really edgy. I don't want to lean into this type of title because I'd rather be a better person Here's the title. You ready? Fuck you. That's why.
Brilliant.
But is that the guy I want to be? I'd rather be like a kinder, gentler, glass half full.
But is that you?
I think you can be fuck you. That's why. And also be kind.
You're right.
But I don't know. So tell me, what keeps you going?
I've been in states of peace and abundance. I sound like a fucking new age spiritualist, but Sorry. I
I
have.
love it.
I've really been in that. And so there is always a part of me like, man, I am a fighter and I've come and, wandered through some dark shit, but that's kind of what keeps me going and not wanting to hurt those that I love, truly.
We don't need to talk about your childhood formative years and all that stuff. I know you were in Utah. I know you have a big family. I know you're Mormon. But the one question I do have is, all in growing up, did you ever think about suicide?
Yeah. I remember having depression very young, fifth grade, sixth grade, writing like notes, but never attempting. So I did think that there's something like, how does a kid feel like that? I feel, is it chemical? Is it environmental? Is it, I don't know. I mean, how many kids at that age are thinking like, I want to just die? Is that normal or is it just not talked about? I hope not. I hope that's not normal because fuck that. God.
How many people know that we're talking right now?
Nobody. Yeah, I think what after the aftermath of my hospitalization and just kind of seeing the scattering of family and friends, it's just not something I like to talk about openly. It's risky. It's risky business, Sean. Risky business.
I would use that as a potential memoir title, but I think it's copyrighted or trademarked from the 1983 movie with Tom Cruise. So we can't, that's off the table. I know that how you found the podcast. I know that you listened to the podcast. I know that you said at one point it was too soon. I actually don't know why you're choosing to talk with me. Did we cover that?
No, I don't think so. Well, I think it's cathartic, number one, but I think it's also, I wanted to show you appreciation for the work you're doing and express to you how much it's helped me. And because the stories, we can relate with stories and people, I think it's just so important to share. So I wanted to share.
Well, thank you. That experience last year, the attempt, the hospitalization, outside of medical community folks, I know that your niece knows about it. Does anybody else? It sounds like there are other people from what you just said about the scattering, but are there other people in your family friend group?
Yeah, my whole family knows, and friends. Most of the people most of the people in my life know.
Does that feel weird?
Yeah, I really went into a shell after that. I struggle with embarrassment, and I mentioned tend to isolate and avoid. And I'm sure it really hurt my family. They just lost a brother a year before that. It's a lot to swallow. And so I can give them their space and I can respect their feelings. But it's been painful too. I've being the youngest, I've always been very loved and very engaged with my family. And it was again, the word sharp, it was a very sharp cutoff when this happened. A lot of them have not spoken to me since.
I'm asking you to speculate if you want to. Like, why do you think that is? Because to be very honest with you, transparent, I don't get it. I'm not trying to pour fuel on fire here. I'm really not. Because for me, the opposite is needed when someone's in pain. But that's on paper and it's easy to say. So, what do you think your family, who I imagine love you,
Yeah.
why would they pull away like that?
And maybe they saw it as selfish. Maybe it's just it brings up too much for them, or they just see me as damaged goods. Like, ugh, I don't want to. Stay away. I've thought about it a lot because I don't understand it either. But people have the right to have their opinions, and honestly, it's not my business, and they don't owe me an explanation. Yeah, I don't know.
So as we talk right now, do you have anyone in your life who you can have a conversation about this and say, I'm thinking about killing myself, or these thoughts are getting a little...
Yeah, I have a good friend. I do. She actually, I met right before my car accident after my mom died. And and where her bond and my bond really cemented was I woke up in the hospital. I didn't really know what had happened. And everyone was very angry with me, as you can imagine. And that's also maybe why my family's like, she's a lot. She's gone through some crazy shit. They just don't want to deal. But she came into the hospital and held my hand and had an open heart and listened to me and asked me if I was okay. She did what we just talked about people doing. Yeah, she's been really good to have in my corner.
Maybe a little different right now if you had nobody instead of that one person.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that don't have that person.
Oh,
So many. And so I try to lead my life with a kind heart. I think that's what these experiences, have shown me. We just don't know. We don't know the depths. We don't know what's really happening. Whatever you're seeing here is not what's happening. This is just this little snippet of a person to be, at least in my, like, to be that kindness can go a long way for people, whether it's the homeless person on the street that everyone ignores. I mean, I'm sounding cheesy again, but truly look them in the eye, or, be someone that others need.
I think people don't know what to do. Like they say, I really want to be there for you, but they actually don't know what that looks like sometimes. And the other part of that I just think about is, without getting weird about it, it's like we have built a culture that in large part, not entirely by any means, but in large part is based on working, got to make money. So you keep working because you got to make more money because you have all these bills and on and on and on. And people are just busy, their bandwidth is reduced. And so what's going to get cut out? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's not necessarily realistic. And you don't have to walk around, I don't think, with like an exposed kind of heart. But I think if you do know someone in your life that is struggling, you don't have to necessarily get down in the mud with them, but you can just show us some kindness, some openness. I do think that is what we need. And we need more of that.
No doubt.
But it's scary to do that. Like, not everybody wants to get in these conversations, Not everybody understands these conversations either. We have it because you've met yourself there. I've met myself there. You know that feeling, but...
Well, I mean, look, if you were having labor pains, I can empathize. You don't have to go through the thing exact. Of course, you're going to understand it in a different or more unique way if you go through something. If we both experience the thing, but like empathy doesn't necessarily require us the same experience, I don't think.
Yeah, but don't you think that people are afraid when we talk about these things? People don't like to talk about it.
Well, this is where empathy is hard for me, because I'm like,
why not?
I can really feel my blood getting it. Like I'm physically different when I think about this. You can see my face now. I'm like, you're uncomfortable. I mean, our entire fucking world is making people feel comfortable. That's why we can't say certain words. So here we go. Pink and purple pill. You've probably heard this question. I asked you earlier if you could go back, and you gave me a rather clear answer, but I asked this question anyway for the audience that might be new. Thank you for listening for the first time. This question is I give Alissa a pill, pink and purple. She takes it. She falls asleep peacefully. She dies in her sleep peacefully, and nobody knows it's a suicide. And I'm going to give it to her magically somehow through this computer right now. And what would you do with it?
Yeah, take it.
Done.
Easy like that, yeah.
What if I changed one part to that, which is you go to sleep, it's peaceful, but people do know it's a suicide? I feel like that might change it.
I don't know that it would. Yeah. Life is sharp. Life is hard.
Pop, pop, pop.
Pop, 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 pop.
Pop, 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 pop.
But the reality is, no, I do. I mean, that's not going to happen. So, I'll continue to show up and try, but who knows?
When's your birthday?
August 9th.
Oh, when was the attempt?
August 14th.
Okay. Other than meditation, which you mentioned was at times helpful, does anything else help you? Well, of course, you have awesome dogs. That's a given.
They do help a lot. My friends, my work helps.
Are there any myths you want to dispel?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've covered most of them, and just the selfish part. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about the selfishness part, Sean? Do you think it's selfish?
We got to really get clear on the definition of selfish for me to answer that question.
That you're not thinking of anyone else, only yourself when you think of ending your life, and others don't matter.
I would answer that I don't think that's a common way. I think much more commonly people are thinking of other people.
Yeah.
2, even if you're not, I'm not sure that's, for me, how you would define selfish. I think agency is very, very important. It's one of these things where, like, I don't know if it's selfish, but I don't care. I decide to check out, even if I or others consider it selfish, it's like, it's almost irrelevant. Because it's used as this like awful pejorative. I'm like you said selfish earlier, and then you checked yourself and you said like self-absorbed. It's like, but we're just talking about words at this point.
Yeah, you're right.
Is selfish bad? I don't know.
Well, and we're all selfish.
Yeah.
We're all living in our own bodies, in our own minds, and we're self-serving. We are by nature selfish.
I mean, you'd be dead if you weren't somewhat selfish. You have to think about your needs.
Yeah.
You have to think about protecting yourself and surviving and all. So, yeah, I know what they mean. They think it's like, but I mean, I like when you ask that question. I'm happy to try to explore more. I don't know. Yeah.
And I had siblings when my brother did take his life that were very angry and did think that. I was like, I get it. And I hope to God that you're at peace now. I never had anger towards him taking his life or resented him. But again, maybe that's because I understand the thought processes that he was experiencing.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a far stretch, but it can be selfish for others to want people to stay around and feel miserable and upset and live a low quality of life just so you're not uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, your one friend who's really good to talk with, has she ever been felt that way? Do you know?
Yeah, she has. Yeah.
Maybe it helps her. Maybe it brings her closer to that. Like I can feel not uncomfortable in talking to you about it.
Yeah. And you're not going to feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like totally the opposite. I'm like, this is the most comfortable I am in my life. Isn't that weird?
I don't think it's weird. I think it's a gift, Sean. I think that's cool. It is unusual, but I think it's needed. This is normalizing it in some ways. It normalized it for me. Yeah, like I'm like over here thinking I'm alone in this world and I don't know who to talk to, or I'm batshit just the same. And yet here I'm finding a community of people that have experienced the same thoughts and feelings and even actions.
Yeah. Forgive the digression here, but I'm thinking about your brother, middle-aged white men. And of course, this applies to other age groups and other races or ethnicities. Middle-aged white men, they kill themselves fairly often.
I was just going to say, my brother was a middle-aged white man that was really struggling in every way. I don't know if that's fair to say.
It's a kind of, we don't really want to hear you, bud. You've had your time. Several hundred years. Stop talking. Okay, I get you, but I'm struggling. Whether I'm white or not, whether I'm 40, 30, 50, 18, 88, whether I'm sarcastic or not. But I think really deep down, people are okay with that.
I've even thought about that, and when I do think about ending my life, what would the impact be of my ending of life versus my brother's? And it would be completely different.
How so?
He had very few friends in the end and very few people that cared. It wouldn't look like that for me. There would be a lot of people very upset. And maybe that's, because I'm a woman or I know she's a pretty girl or whatever it is, it's a little bit different than it was for him as a middle-aged, unsuccessful, broken man, white man at that, not to get into race so much, but it was just kind of like, well,
can you share with me, for absolutely self-serving reasons here, because what you just described is 100% how I describe my life. Similar age, I don't know if white matters, but we just happen to be white. When you say unsuccessful, broken, but when you say unsuccessful, what do you mean? Like he was broke?
Yeah, he was in process of getting disability. He obviously had a lot of mental problems with just depression, anxiety. He was on Klonopin. He was on a lot of different things, I think. And then it became very physical. He wasn't able to work. And so he was living with a girlfriend. And he had been in process of trying to get disability for 2 years. His daughter actually was awarded that 6 months after his death. You can imagine, he's going through a mental health crisis. He's not working. His girlfriend kicks him out of the house. He doesn't have many friends or much family to go to at that point because he kind of just went, for lack of better words, crazy. And maybe that was intentional that he started burning all those bridges down because he knew what he was.
There are some differences, but there's so many similarities.
Yeah. And he was just like, I don't want to be fucking homeless. Can't get a job. I can't get income. I can't work. What the fuck am I supposed to do? I'm an overweight 50-year-old guy that has nowhere to go in this world. That's what's sad with him. I'm sure the desperation and the feelings. I mean, I know the feeling of wanting to be just done, but I'm sure just the hopelessness there is what pushed him over that cliff.
Gone?
No. He drove up into the Utah mountains, the Uinta Mountains, and parked his car and took all of the medication he had, which was a lot, and I think chased it with some alcohol. He was missing for 2 weeks. We didn't know where he was. I think he did that on purpose so that we couldn't stop it. And then on the 4th of July, he was found. Someone on an ATV saw him in his car in a parked campsite, and they just figured it was a camper, but they could smell. 2 weeks in the July sun in the mountains. You can imagine yeah. So, and maybe that's why I reached out to you again. I don't know, it's his anniversary coming up. I just wanted to talk about all of this swirling in my head.
Anything else swarming in your head?
think there's always things swimming around in your head. Then I think I'm good. It has been good to talk about it. And I thank you for creating that container space for me to do that.
You are very welcome.
What an honor that people would open up with these deepest, darkest things. It's been pretty incredible. Personally, I like the directness because this has been so tempered down that we need voices like yours to really bring it out into the light without regard for making someone uncomfortable. We need these conversations.
Life is sharp.
Life is fucking sharp. Pop, 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 pop.
What do I have, like a boxing image? What is this going to be, a boxing movie at the end? This isn't a boxing story, I don't think. But hey, you know what? I just was editing Nick in Finland. He'll be out Monday. He was an American guy. He's living in Finland. Listen to the episode if you want to hear more. But he's like a Australian rules football player and a professional wrestler. I'm like, people just do the most interesting shit.
Yeah, super interesting, right?
Yeah. That would be part of his story. Because you and me, we ain't wrestlers. We ain't boxers. We ain't the rough kids.
No, definitely not rough.
A little bit broken, a little bit sad.
Mm-hmm.
What's the rest of your day look like?
Moving.
What floor are you on?
I'll show you. I'll turn you around. This one, I'm on 21. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's cool. What floor will you be on?
21. This is 15.
How hot is it there?
Like 110 today, I think.
Wow. Last question before we go. Do you think you're going to die a natural death?
I don't know. Think you're going to die a natural death?
I don't know either. I wanted to say, well, it depends on how we're defining natural death, but I guess if I asked you that question as well, I'll go with 50-50 as we're talking right now. So, Alissa in Arizona, are we good? We just talked about suicide for 80 minutes. I'm good.
Yeah.
You're good? Great. Let's go back to our lives. Everything's great. We're good.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye. As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. And special thanks to Alissa in Arizona. Thank you, Alissa. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you would like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter/X @suicidenoted. Check the show notes to learn more about the podcast, including our membership. And of course, if you've got a little extra time, meaning like 12 seconds, if you rate and review this podcast, it not only makes me happy, but it helps more people find it. And that is, of course, what we want. Thank you for that. And that is all for episode number 223. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I will talk to you soon.